Have you ever shared a dream with someone, and in a single sentence they cut it down? One laugh, one careless comment, and suddenly what felt alive inside you collapsed into silence. I lived that mistake. For 6 months I poured myself into a book draft, late nights, endless pages, chasing words as if they could rebuild me. When I was close to finishing, I told a friend with excitement. He smirked and said, "Who would ever read that?" That one line was enough to bury my work in a drawer for months. That moment carved a lesson I will never forget. Some truths only survive if you protect them in silence first. Not because they are fragile, but because they are still rooting, still finding their strength. And the wrong noise can rip them out before they ever grow. I have learned this. Silence is not weakness. Silence is the ultimate form of protection. So let me ask you, how many times have the seeds of your dreams failed to take root? Not because you lacked the gift, but because you planted them in soil too noisy too soon? But what if I told you the real danger isn't failure at all? It's revealing your truth before it's ready. Across 12 steps, I'll show you why silence, not noise, is the space where your power begins. 1. Don't share too early. The biggest risk isn't failure, it's revealing what isn't ready. Think about the last time you started something fresh. Maybe a side hustle, a workout routine, or patching up an old relationship. You had that spark, that fragile energy, and then you told someone. Instead of support, you got a shrug or a smirk. If opinions burn calories, most of us would be athletes by now. I once knew a young man who wanted to open a cafe. First week, he hardly slept, sketching layouts, picturing warm bread at sunrise. Then he told an older cousin too early. The reply? Cafes fail every year. Don't waste your money. One sentence and the dream shrank. Not because it was impossible, but because it was exposed before it could stand. New growth is like new muscle. You don't flex after 3 days at the gym. It needs weeks of quiet work before it shows. This week, pick one thing, big or small, that matters to you. Don't announce it. Don't post it. Just do it daily, in silence. And when the urge comes to share, pause. Ask yourself, am I speaking because it's strong or because I want to feel seen? Protect what's growing before you show it. 2. The hunger for validation will drain you. After every breakthrough, the temptation to share is loud. You want proof that it's real. You want applause. But here's the trap. Validation feels sweet but works like candy. It spikes, then crashes. What you need is fuel, not sugar. I knew a woman who started her weight loss journey. First week, she proudly posted a photo online. Instead of encouragement, she got jokes. Let's see how long this lasts. Those words didn't just sting, they drained her drive. Within 2 weeks, she stopped showing up to the gym. Not because she was weak, but because her energy was leaking into the wrong hands. And let's be honest, we've all posted something online and then checked likes every 5 minutes like it was oxygen. Growth doesn't need claps. It needs consistency. Every time you trade roots for recognition, you hand your strength to people who won't carry it with you. Here's your practice. This week, record one private win. Write it down in a notebook or on your phone. At the end of 7 days, ask, did I grow because of applause or because of the act itself? Validation fades, presence stays. So how much of your energy are you losing just to prove what you already know? Guard it in silence. If this truth hit you like it did me, pause for a second, hit that like button, and let it remind you that your growth is real even without applause. 3. Timing turns truth into power. The right truth at the wrong time can still break you. You may hold something precious in your hands, but if you reveal it too soon, the world can turn it into dust. I remember once, after months of piecing myself back together, I told Jonas, an old friend, about an idea that had just begun to give me hope. He looked at me and said, "You doing that? I don't see it." He wasn't cruel. He just couldn't picture me outside of the ruins he remembered. But those few words rattled me for weeks. Not because the idea was weak, but because I exposed it before it was strong enough to stand on its own. Truth has its own seasons. Play a song too early, people hear noise, not music. Turn on the stage lights before the show begins, and the room still looks empty. Even something real will fall flat if the timing is wrong. Here's a quick test before you share. Am I calm enough to stand firm if nobody agrees? Is the space around me supportive or hostile? Has my life already started to reflect this truth without me saying a word? If you're like me, chances are the answer is no, at least once. Usually all three. And let's be honest, most of us fail at least one of these checks. Sometimes all three. That's why silence is your rehearsal space. Because not every sunrise is meant to be chased the second you see the glow. Some are meant to be guarded until the light is strong enough to rise on its own. So tell me, what truth in your life still needs rehearsal time before the world is allowed to hear its full song? Let it mature in silence. 4. The ego loves the stage. After every step forward, the ego shows up with a microphone in hand. It whispers, tell them, show them, make sure they know you've changed. But here's the problem. When you rush to prove, you turn wisdom into a performance, and performance feeds the ego, not the soul. I once knew a young woman who landed her first steady job after years of instability. In her very first week, she flooded social media with posts. Finally winning, finally free. The likes poured in, but within a month, when the buddy grew stressful, as every job does, she felt trapped. Not because she couldn't handle the work, but because she had already broadcasted a victory she hadn't lived long enough to secure. The ego wanted a stage, not roots. The lesson is clear. When you speak too soon, you trade growth for applause. You let people's reactions define your direction. But wisdom doesn't need an audience. Wisdom needs stillness. When someone asks about your progress, give one sentence. Then let your actions carry the rest. Shrink the ego's speech into silence, and you'll feel how much lighter it is to simply live. Strength doesn't arrive with a megaphone. It arrives like a quiet current under your feet. Steady, unshakable, undeniable. So what part of your life are you still narrating like a performance, when you could be living it instead? Guard your strength in silence. 5. Stillness is a weapon you don't wave. Not every battle is won by swinging harder. Some victories arrive when you don't swing at all. I remember one evening in Kai's workshop. I was furious after an argument with someone who doubted me. My hands shook on the chisel. I wanted to prove myself, to call, to shout, to win the fight with words. Kai didn't even look up from his carving. He just said, "A blade that waves at every shadow never cuts when it matters." That one stung because I realized I'd been waving my words around like a sword at mosquitoes. I put the chisel down. For the first time, I realized restraint wasn't weakness. It was precision. When you react to everything, you waste your strength on noise. But when you stay still, when you hold your energy, you become sharper, calmer, harder to move. Stillness itself becomes your shield. This week, notice one situation that usually triggers you: an argument, a rude message, a small betrayal. Instead of reacting instantly, pause for a full breath cycle. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 8. Then act once, with clarity. True power isn't in how loud you strike. It's in how steady you stay when others expect you to lose control. So what fight could you win this week? Simply by refusing to swing. Stand firm in your silence. 6. Pain doesn't need an audience. When pain comes, the first instinct is to broadcast it. We post, we call, we explain, hoping that if others understand, it will hurt less. But often, the more we narrate our wounds, the less space we leave for them to heal. I once knew a man who went through a breakup. Every day, he updated his friends with long texts about how badly he was treated. He told the story so many times that it became heavier, not lighter. Instead of healing, he kept reopening the wound with every word. His pain didn't need more listeners. It needed stillness. Silence doesn't deny pain. Silence holds it. It lets the pieces start to realign without the interference of opinion, without the noise of performance. Some struggles are sanctuaries. They are meant to be lived quietly until they form strength inside you. When you feel the urge to explain your suffering, pause. Sit with it for 10 minutes. No phone, no messages, no words. Just let the silence carry what words can't. Healing isn't about convincing the world of your hurt. Healing is about giving yourself enough quiet to let the wound close. So what pain in your life are you still narrating when you could be allowing it to mend in silence? Let your stillness become your medicine. And here's the twist. Silence doesn't just heal your pain, it also protects your future. If this part gave you a sense of calm, take a breath and subscribe so this space of quiet strength can stay with you every week. 7. Protect your vision while it's new. Every new vision begins fragile, bright enough to excite you, but delicate enough to be blown out by the wrong wind. I once knew a teenager who dreamed of writing music. He stayed up late with a cheap guitar, scribbling lyrics in a notebook, humming melodies that only he believed in. One night he played a song for a friend. The friend chuckled and said, "You sound like every other kid on YouTube." That single comment was enough to silence his strings. Within weeks, he stopped writing. Not because the dream wasn't real, but because it was exposed too soon to the wrong draft. When your vision is young, it needs shelter, not applause. The world can be careless with what you treasure. And if you hand over your spark too early, it can be snuffed out before it has a chance to become a steady flame. And let's be real, dreams are fragile, like that phone battery that dies the second you brag it's finally full. Choose one goal that matters to you, something still tender. Keep it in your private notebook. For the next 30 days, work on it silently. Build, test, refine. Show the result only when it glows steady enough that no comment can extinguish it. Dreams don't die from failure alone. They often die from exposure. Protect yours until it's strong enough to shine through any storm. So what vision of yours needs shelter right now before the world is allowed to see its light? Guard the flame until it's ready. 8. Let presence do the talking. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room isn't the one speaking. It's the presence that doesn't need to explain itself. One evening I was at dinner with Elena and a few friends. A man at the table laughed at meditation, calling it a waste of time for people who can't face reality. The old me wanted to defend, to argue, to prove him wrong. But I stayed quiet. I ate slowly. I breathed deeply. By dessert, he leaned toward me and asked, "How do you stay so calm when people try to provoke you?" I didn't preach. I just smiled and said, "I count the breaths in the room." He laughed, but a little later, I noticed him trying it himself. My silence spoke louder than any defense. When you embody your truth, you don't need to convince. Your presence already carries it. The people ready for change will notice, not because you shouted, but because you lived it. At your next tense moment, whether it's at home, at work, or in traffic, slow down your movements by just 10%. Lower your voice. Take one extra breath before you respond. Let presence, not volume, do the talking. Because in the end, respect is not demanded. It's felt. So where in your life could silence carry your truth louder than words? Let your presence be the proof. 9. Restraint sharpens your edge. Not every conflict needs a sword. Some are solved with a pause. I once saw a couple fight over the same thing week after week, a single dirty dish left in the sink. The argument always ended with slammed doors and silence. Until one night, instead of exploding, she quietly washed the dish, walked back, kissed his shoulder, and said, "Can we make a plan for busy nights?" That tiny restraint changed everything. They solved the dish and discovered a softer way to speak to each other. Restraint doesn't weaken you, it sharpens you. Every time you hold back when your ego wants to lash out, you're training your precision. You learn to act with clarity, not chaos. Like a blade kept in its sheath until the right moment, your response gains weight because it is measured. Pick one trigger in your life, at home, at work, or in traffic. When it appears, don't react immediately. Count 4, -4, -8. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, 8. Then choose a single action that moves the situation forward. Real mastery isn't about winning every argument. It's about knowing which battles aren't worth bleeding for. So what would happen if your silence this week became a scalpel instead of a sword? Let your restraint become your edge. 10. Humility keeps the door open. The moment you think you've mastered something, life has a way of humbling you. I remember telling Kai once, full of pride, I've learned detachment. Nothing can shake me now. He didn't argue. He just handed me an old three-legged stool with one leg loose and said, "Sit." Within seconds, I was wobbling, arms flailing like a clumsy circus act. Humility has a way of making you laugh at yourself before life does it for you. Kai finally said, "If you were truly steady, you wouldn't need the ground to behave for you." That lesson cut deeper than any compliment. I realized humility isn't weakness, it's the anchor that keeps growth real. The ego wants to graduate too soon. It craves the title of master. But mastery isn't a badge, it's a practice, and the moment you stop practicing, you start sliding. At the end of this week, ask yourself 3 questions. Where did I fail today? What did it teach me? What still needs repeating? Write the answers down. Keep a page in your journal titled Beginner's Page. Let it remind you that humility is not stepping backward. It's staying open to growth. Because the soil that refuses water will stay dry, no matter how much rain falls. Stay open and you'll keep absorbing. So where in your life do you need to return to being a beginner so your growth doesn't stop? Stay teachable, stay unshakable. And remember, mastery isn't about how much you know. It's about knowing when to stay quiet until the moment is right. 11. Speak only when it's ready to land. Not every insight is meant to be spoken right away. Sometimes words land like seeds. Other times, if the ground isn't ready, they scatter like dust. I once knew a man who decided to learn tennis. Instead of announcing it everywhere or bragging after his first lesson, he kept it quiet. For months, he practiced early in the morning, missing shots, sweating through drills, chasing the ball when no one was watching. Then one day during a casual match, his friends were stunned. His serve had power, his game had flow. When they asked how, his answer mattered. It landed because his actions had already spoken. When you share too early, you sound like theory. But when you live it first, your words carry the weight of reality. That's when people listen, not because you argued louder, but because your actions already spoke. Before you share a new insight, ask yourself, can I show results instead of promises? If yes, speak with confidence. If not, hold it. Live it until the evidence is undeniable. Because truth doesn't need to convince, it only needs to reveal itself when it can't be shaken. So what truth in your life is still theory, and what truth is already strong enough to stand as evidence? Wait until your words have weight. 12. The soft light at the end. Some truths don't arrive with thunder. They arrive like morning light, quiet, steady, undeniable. One dawn, I stood alone in Kai's old workshop. The tools were still, the air smelled of pine and dust. A small beam of sunlight slipped through the cracked window and lit the table I had carved the night before. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to prove anything. No photos, no words, no applause, just the peace of knowing. This is real because I lived it. That is the gift silence gives. When you protect what matters long enough, it transforms you. You don't need to announce it. People feel it in how you walk, how you breathe, how you carry yourself. You become evidence without explanation. Find one moment each day to sit in stillness. No phone, no audience, no performance. Let your breath remind you that you don't need to prove your worth. You only need to live it. Because in the end, silence is not emptiness. Silence is presence. It is where dreams root, where healing begins, and where strength grows unshakable. So what part of your life is ready to be lived so deeply that no words are required anymore? Let your silence become your legacy. Because silence isn't the end of the story. It's the power that carries you into the next chapter of your life. The power of what you don't say. We've walked through a simple but difficult truth. Not everything you discover is meant to be spoken right away. Some dreams die because they were shared too early. Some growth collapses because it was exposed before it had roots. But silence is not weakness. Silence is protection. It is the soil where seeds grow into trees, the shield that keeps your strength from leaking, the quiet that sharpens your presence. And when the time comes when what you've lived is strong enough to stand on its own, you won't need to shout. The world will feel it in your calmness, in your discipline, in your way of being. So let me leave you with this. In a world addicted to noise, may you choose the courage of quiet. May you protect what matters until it becomes unshakable. And when you finally speak, may your words land like roots, not dust. And the funny part? The quieter you get, the more people lean in to hear you. Because the loudest proof of who you are is often the silence you guard within. Let your silence speak louder than your voice ever could. If you've walked this whole journey with me, drop a comment about the moment that spoke to you most, and share this video with someone who needs the courage of quiet. Because silence grows stronger when it's shared wisely.